Hello and welcome to Public Conscience. You are onto the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. PRIMOG is a civil society organization working to promote good governance, participation, and accountability in Nigeria. I am Chidozie Obunnaya with my colleague Esther Blasi.
A warm welcome to the program wherever you're listening to us from.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society through the amplification of investigative corruption stories by our partner media organizations and by alerting citizens and government to their democratic actions against it. We equally promote integrity by amplifying rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals in the course of their normal activities. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
Today's program, we will focus on the criminalization of petty offences in Nigeria, which affects mostly underprivileged citizens who on many occasions have no means to hire lawyers or money to bribe security agents. This is coming from an investigative report published by Premium Times.
The African Commission on Human and People's Rights, ACHPR, defines petty offences as minor offences such as loitering, hawking, vending, failure to pay debts, prostitution, and among others. Petty offences are offences other than felonies and misdemeanors. They are otherwise called simple or minor offences.
According to the report, the enforcement of petty offences affects the poor, street children, and people with disabilities. It adds to the problem of already overcrowded correctional facilities in Nigeria, as many violators are unable to pay their fines. There are documented cases of how enforcement of petty offences law has resulted in arbitrary arrest, illegal detention, torture, and violation of various rights.
Sadly, another report says very few people arrested for loitering and other petty offences can escape police detention, as they may not have the resources to bail themselves or bribe their way out. Today's program seeks to raise awareness and stress that there's an urgent need to decriminalize petty offences in Nigeria. And it must also be said that sending someone to jail for violation of petty offences is as good as criminalizing poverty. For you out there, feel free to share your experience with us when we open our phone lines. Have you been arrested before for petty offense? And do you know that arresting and prosecuting of citizens for loitering and wandering is a violation of their fundamental human rights? And how can exploitation and extortion of vulnerable citizens accused of petty offences by security operatives be stopped going forward?
Be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 0902-265-6167. That is 0902-265-6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only. If you are just joining us, we are discussing the continued criminalization of petty offences in Nigeria. A Premium Times report revealing that a sizable number of underprivileged citizens targeted by minor offences law suffers violations through arrest or detention for wandering, hawking, and loitering, amongst others.
Recall that law against wandering and loitering, which in other words called vagrancy law, was introduced in Nigeria under the British colonial regime but was repealed in 1989 during the reign of General Ibrahim Babangida as military head of states, following a sustained campaign by human rights activists.
The African Commission on Human and People's Rights, ACHPR, and the National Human Rights Commission, NHRC, have been campaigning for the discriminalization and disclassification of minor offences. Pressure is also on our correctional center nationwide, as most people arrested and prosecuted for petty crimes languished in jail or wait trial for years.
joining us with more on the persistent criminalization of petty offenses in Nigeria is a journalist with the Premium Times, Kunle Sani. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And we also have legal practitioner Oluwatoyin Aladebami. Thank you for joining us this morning, Barrister.
Thank you.
All right. We will also be joined on the phone by a victim of criminalization of petty offenses as we proceed in the program. But let's get this program started by talking to Kunle Sani first, who went out to investigate these stories, this criminalization of petty offenses. Kunle, give us a background of your report and why your organization deemed this report necessary.
All right, thank you very much. What was conceived, I think, sometime last year. My editor kept calling my attention to the arbitrary arrest of some of these orcas in Abuja. And before you know it, they had just been arrested and detained. Some of them have been sentenced to prison. So I actually took up the story and said, okay. And following my report on some former governors that have been under investigation for years, some like 11 years, and up to now, no prosecution, nothing. And compared to these people that, before you know it, they are arrested, their arraignment doesn't even take 2 days before they have been sentenced to prison. And I also given harsh fines, something like 50,000, 20,000. Some of them even confiscate their goods. So I tried to take up the story and I interviewed a lot of victims. Some of them told their story, stating how they were arrested, how they were prosecuted. And I also found out that many of them don't have legal representation, whereby government prosecutors actually represent them. And for the fact that some of them are not well educated, they don't even understand what's even happening there. Before they know it, they are just in prison.
They're taking advantage of.
Yeah, they don't. The system. They don't even understand how it's even done. Some of them I interviewed said, before they didn't even understand what they were saying, they couldn't even understand English, and they just made themselves in prison. And although some of them said they were given fine and they were given bail, and they couldn't meet up the bail requirements. Bail requirements, you have to pay at least 200,000, or you get a civil servant that is level as guarantor. So they couldn't even get any of them.
For a petty offense.
Yeah, for a petty offense. And some of them said they spent at least 11 years in detention.
All right.
I wanted to ask what area you covered in the course of your investigation. Is it just Abuja?
No, I also traveled to Lagos. Lagos and Abuja.
Okay, the investigation focused on Lagos and Abuja only.
Yes.
All right. Tell us one or two more incidents just to paint the picture clearer.
Okay, and also the recent auctioning of vehicles by traffic offenders. Although I already returned to Abuja then, so I saw the auction and the auctioning process, and I just wondered. Just imagine, had it been I was a driver, like maybe say an Uber driver, and that's just my investment. The car is just my own daily income, and the law says you can spend at least 2 months in prison for violating traffic law, and you can also lose your car at the same time, and you also pay fine. So I got contact with one of the victims. He said he was arrested, he was jailed, at the same time spent at least 2 months, and when he came out, he also paid fine, and his car was forfeited.
I'm eager to hear what the legal practitioner in our midst will say, but before I come to you, ma'am, let me get someone who is a victim of this petty offense criminalization. We have joining us actually someone who had been affected by the harshness of our laws, Mr. Osinachi Ndukwe. He's joining us from Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Osinachi. Okay, let's get straight to your experience. Kindly share it with us. How did you end up losing your vehicle despite serving a 3-month jail term for a traffic offense?
Okay, it happened in April. So I was driving from Sele to Oshodi. So when I stopped at Sele bus stop, so I wanted to drop passenger. So those task force people, they now blocked me. Said that I'm not supposed to park that place. That place is not a bus stop. I'm not supposed to. I said, I think a normal place that we used to park. So now started dragging me on the car, so I should go down from the car and this and that. I said, no, I've not committed no offense. Which offense did I commit? Why did I come down from my car and now started beating me? So they was dragging me. The other one started holding my neck, wanted to drag me down. And I refused to come down. So when they were dragging me, so that one they are holding my neck and I bite that one on the ground. So they now started beating me up and down, beating me, say that I was fighting the officer, say that they are going to show me pepper, they are going to wicked me. They after following one way, I still have the mind to fight the officer. So they not took me to Oshodi. So when they go to the not put me inside the prison. So one of those policemen asking me which offense I commit, what did I do? And I explained to the officer. When I explained to the officer, he said that the only thing that made me that I should, since I have already bite the officer, say the evidence is there, I'm not there, finding that I have followed one way, and that one is another offense. So now, for them to be easier for me, when they took me to court, say I will answer guilty. If they ask me if I bite someone, I say yes, I'm guilty for that. If I follow one way, I say answer guilty. If I answer guilty, I will stay. Maybe they will jail me for 3 months. After that 3 months, then they will release my vehicle for me. But if I refuse to answer guilty, they will still put me for sale. I will be going court maybe 1 month. They will still postpone it before I chop like 1 year or more than there. Instead of that, I should play it to the punish me for the beginning my punishment. I will start like 3 months. So after that, they will bring my very okay, that's my will.
Osinachi, sorry to jump in here. Did you not try to get your own lawyer?
When this thing happened, they collected my phone. They collected my big phone that I'm using that I introduced myself. They collected it. So no, I didn't. No, my mom said no. They no that I've been in bed for 3 days.
So you did not get legal representation.
Ma'am?
So you didn't get anyone to. You didn't get any lawyer. No legal representation.
No lawyer. Nobody did my back. None of my parents. When I went into to the court, none of my parents. I don't have anybody there. Even no lawyer for my side.
Okay, just because of time, let's just quickly wrap up the story. Let's hear you.
Okay, so when they took me to the court, then I played with it that yes, I bite person, I follow one with it. After that, then still I will go after for 3 months. So they took me to Badagry prison. So after 3 months, I come back, I go back to Oshodi. So I tell them that I'll start with 3 months finish. Can they give me my boss? They say the boss is no longer, I'm no longer the owner again. It's not a government property. After having for the jail 3 months, he say he's no longer my boss again. He said that I should go to Alawosa Ikeja. Is that place they impact it. So when I get there, the boss, they already designed it to paint writing for fitted. So it's property. So after that, they said that if I want to get the bus, I should go and arrange myself. When they are selling offshore, so I will come and buy the bus for their hand. I started crying there, so they now push me outside the gate. So before my mom can't get information that they are selling offshore on last month, so I went with them with my mom. So you read that, and you only have 8,000 naira. So we told that since that I have suffered from the punishment, the same punishment, so if I slept for them, then we consider me. So we read that they started billing the price of 200, 300, 400, 450.
So you couldn't buy it during the auction to buy your car back?
I don't have money to buy it.
Okay.
So the option is force.
So do you feel like the punishment you got was too harsh? Do you think you deserve the punishment you got?
And are you the only one affected by such punishment?
Yes, I one of those boys that are telling us that nobody attended to that prison. Nobody go prison. It's only I go prison. They still option my boss. And the boss is not my boss. I collected this type of check.
So,
I collected this type of 1.8 million.
So you feel that you were singled out?
Yes.
All right. But going forward, you're still in Lagos, I presume.
Yes.
Are you aware of anything being done by the government, by the Lagos state government, to change the manner which minor offences are punished?
I think the punishment is going to prison for 3 months. I think the punishment is enough now. I know for being in a prison for that 3 months, it's like 3 years. It's not easy for them. I remember when I'm inside there, I lost my daughter. She's 3 years. I lost her. So
okay.
After everything, I still lost my boss. So the punishment is very, very big. I think going to prison 3 months is enough. I'll suffer for the punishment. I cannot suffer the punishment 2 times.
Osinachi Ndukwe, I sympathize with you. I feel your pain, and you've not been, whatever you are going through, know that our hearts are with you in this. But we have to thank you so much for sharing your story with us on this program. From our own end, we don't want such offenses, to use the sledgehammer on a very, very small fly. So it's not what we encourage, but we sympathize with you and we wish you well in your future endeavor. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. If you're just joining us, this is Public Conscience, and we are talking about criminalization of petty offenses, and we've been talking to a victim of that from all the way from Lagos State. But back in the studio, I still have my guest with me here, the journalist from Premium Times, Kunle Sani, and also I have Barrister Oluwatoyin Aladebami still with us here, and I'm eager to hear what she will say. Barrister, let's get your response to your reaction to all you've heard, and you've heard the victim here cry out. I don't know what you have to say about that, and why. Help us also to understand why offences are classified into minor and major offences.
Offences are classified based on the penalty that they carry.
Okay.
Basically, that is the way it is. Now, there's an aspect of minor and major offense, and there's another aspect of criminalization of offenses, which I think may be our focus based on what I've heard so far and what we had been discussing.
Okay.
Now, the minor offenses are those offenses that do not officially, legally, do not carry serious penalties. The fine could be 5,000 naira maximum. It could be maximum of 1 month imprisonment, and that's it. But when we talk about the major ones, they are the ones that could be death penalty, or several years imprisonment, as the case may be. And the basis of the classification is based on the level or the gravity or the impact such an offense would have on that individual or on the society at large. Now, when we talk about the level, we are talking about the social harm it could have on an individual, because some people also think that they can lawfully injure themselves, but that is not true. I think that we need to get educated more about how things should work in the country. Now I'm beginning to delve into the issue that had just been mentioned.
Okay.
Now we've had one side of the story, so one cannot conclude based on one side of the story. But the sacrosanct thing to ask is, what are the likely level, or what is the likely impact his action would have had on himself and the society as at the time he was perpetrating the act? That would enable us to classify it into whether it is a minor offense or a major offense. Now, if perhaps we conclude that the impact it would have had won't be much, then we would say that it's a minor offense. Under the Nigerian law, for every society, there must be law and order.
Yes.
And I believe that is what the government is trying to guard against, that there must be law and order. However, most citizens do not even know their rights. They are not aware of the do's and don'ts of their environment. So there's a higher tendency for people to neglect what they ought to have done or what they ought to have guarded against, which may have been the case right now.
I just want to know, because in this case, before we go into the likes of loitering and hawking, in the case of Osinachindukwe,
yes,
we heard it, we saw it, that cars were being auctioned. We know that traffic offenses are not part of the minor offense, right?
Yes.
So, but is that treatment okay, or do you think it's too much?
I said earlier we had only one side of the story. However, based on what he has told the public, the penalty would seem to be disproportionate to the crime that he might have committed. However, following the laws, I don't live in Lagos, I don't have all their rules with me, but there are laws against traffic offense which does not include, and I know that it does not include auction of vehicles, because he said he paid a fine. If he has paid a fine, then he should not suffer double jeopardy. If, however, he did not pay a fine and there were other issues that came about during the time he was having the altercation with the law enforcement agents, or a case of abandoning his vehicle because at some point he said he could not meet up their demand, yes, the law permits it in Lagos State, not in other states, but there are rules, there are regulations that they follow before they get to the extent of auctioning a car. That's why I said we've heard only one side of the story.
Absolutely.
But more importantly, he obviously does not know his right from what he has stated,
Yes.
or he chose to abandon his right.
Okay,
so
maybe we'll shift gears a little.
Yeah,
Go
of
on.
course. So vulnerable Nigerians continue to be exploited on account of loitering and hawking. A good number of people are languishing in detention. What are the dangers of continued criminalization of petty offenses on a national development?
Every society, I said earlier, thrives on law and order. So if a citizen knows that it is an offense to commit a particular act, a citizen that chooses to commit it should bear the repercussion. However, when we talk about decriminalization of certain offenses, yes, we may want to look at it from different perspectives, because we don't want a breakdown of law and order. Those that have suffered loss because of certain omissions in the society would think otherwise. I still maintain that there must be law and order, it must be upheld. However, citizens must ensure they know their rights, because more often when you check, they might have slept on their rights before they get arrested. And secondly, when we talk about the decriminalization, I would want to suggest, like it was said during the introduction of this program, the declassification might be more appropriate, because there's a word in Africa, we call it Ubuntu, meaning that I am because you are. And the classification would mean that the society must join forces with the law enforcement agents and ensure that they are educated. The citizens are cautioned. You can put it on paper and make sure that they go through a particular training to know what to do, instead of just throwing them into the prison, because some of them they may go to the prison 10 times and yet not understand the offense that they have committed.
I was actually coming to that. I was actually going to ask you of non-custodial punishment actions. So why are we not taking advantage of it? But we'll expand on that issue when we come back. But we have to open up the phone line so that we can also have the public, our listener, join us on this program. Esther,
please follow us on our social media platforms at Official Primog.
And remember that this program is interactive. The WhatsApp phone line to send your messages: 090-2265-6167. 090-2265-6167. This number is for messages only. Please begin to send your messages now to 090-2265-6167, and you will read them out for you. Barrister said something about information, the information gap that is also making people not to know their rights or sleep on their rights, if I get her right, the way she said it. So as a journalist, as a media house, what are you doing? How can we spread this information more?
It's all about advocacy and telling follow-up stories and more investigative stories about the need to decriminalize these petty offences, because these offences are still in our criminal codes and our penal codes that actually criminalizes these offenders, stating different sections in our law that can be arrested for loitering, you can be arrested for hawking, you can be arrested for presumed to commit a crime. Because I interviewed somebody from Ekiti, he just arrived from Delta State to see his mom, and he was arrested for loitering, and although he was also given bail, but he wasn't able to complete the bail. So this is not all about what your right is, about what the law says. Police can use it against you and arrest you and also charge you to court. So for me, it's advocacy to let's have a law to actually decriminalize these petty offences and have a face for the poor.
All right. Barrister said is better we look at declassification, right? Yes, but we've been talking about this. The campaign has been on for a long time, and I'm wondering, why are we slow on this? What is holding us back? But I'll get your answer after this call, please. Hello, your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, my name is Victor. I'm calling from Abuja, District.
All right, let's hear you in 1 minute.
Well, I just want to respond or react to the position as canvassed by the last speaker. In my opinion, most times, when police want to write, when someone is arrested on battery, let's say as a term, the police is not going to coach charge in that manner. That is the danger in it. They're not going to coach this in that manner to charge. They're going to coach this in a way that it will reflect with the face of ingredients of some other offences, especially in the face of insecurity we are having in the country. So in my own opinion, it shouldn't be about advocacy for potential people that may fall into that danger, but rather the advocacy also should be extended to the bench. On the face of it, even a judge or a magistrate can infer from it that the case does not really, particular charge or particular matter in court before that particular judge does not really carry weight. But the court, the state is the one prosecuting it. That person will just, the case, the one person of the prosecuting counsel has actually established with one particular case. And the next thing you're going to see is the person will not be reminded. And once you are reminded, some level of complexity comes in. So what I'm trying to say is that the advocacy should go beyond just the people. Even the judges
All right.
Yeah, that is my position to it.
All right. We must thank you so much for your contribution. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get back to Barrister Aladebe Bami to have her say. Please, you can go on and respond now. I was asking, why are we finding it or slow on declassifying these minor offenses?
The question I would like to ask Nigerians is, who makes the law? The people that make the law, how do they get there? We put them there. We make our choices and we live by our choices. The police does not make the law for us. Who makes loitering, for example, an offense? Who are the people that make it? We do. I talked about Ubuntu earlier. I am because we are joining forces together, holding hands together, ensuring that there is law and order, by implication love in the society. So when we choose our lawmakers and we tell them what we want and they implement what we want, why are we complaining? We need to work hand in hand together to ensure that things are done right. Even if we want the change of the laws, at the end of the day, who are the people that will sponsor it? It's still we. That's why I said the society needs a lot of awareness as to their rights, as to what they need to know so that we right the wrong.
But recently, many young people have been complaining, or should I say, they've complained that they have been harassed and extorted for possession of laptops and iPhones, as the case may be. And then I think that's part of the reason why we have the NSAS, protest at some point. What do you have to say about possessions of items in respect to extortion and arrest in some cases?
Like I said earlier, as a lawyer, the law is an us. We look at it from two different perspectives. Each case has its peculiar storyline. Generally speaking, we also know that yes, some actions of the law enforcement agents can be overreaching. But how do we get it right? We need to work together. How do we work together? A lot of us from the bar need to volunteer ourselves to assist those that cannot afford legal services to ensure that their rights are not trampled upon.
That's pro bono service.
Yes. And when we say that this, what we're talking about carries the face of the poor, yes, because you would hardly see a law enforcement agent go to a supposed rich person, for example, and see the son of a senator in maybe at the villa or some unique places. I choose my words properly, and say they want to arrest the person for carrying a laptop. But this often happens on the streets. Now, the citizen also needs to be taught about good conduct.
About good conduct.
Yes, approach is very important.
Let me hold you up there. I will come back to you, please. Do we have a message?
Yeah, we have a message on Facebook from Liangbe Thank God. He said, "Morning to all the crew. Petty criminals is bad and condemnable, but keeping data of such criminals is another thing. For example, Mr. Adun committed an offense in Alagbado in Lagos and moved to Iyala to commit another offense in Anambra. What about that? Above all, why is the law taking full scale with one and still Maggie in Ijebu market, but silent on oil theft in Rivers State?" Who will respond to that?
I think maybe Barrister will jump in and trash that for us. But let's go on because our time is running at the speed of light. Let's get back to Kunle Sani.
Yeah, I wanted to, with the conversation we've had, I wanted to know if you agree that the criminalization of petty offenses is deliberate and it's deliberately criminalizing poverty, and why. Do you agree that the criminalization of petty offenses is deliberately criminalizing poverty?
Yes, for me, in some aspects, because these laws are still there, and the way it's been implemented, it's being used in court of law is very fast. And for a poor man who cannot even get a legal service like for the senior advocate and the rest. So it's, for me, it's not in favor of the poor.
But you know that a lot has to be done by the media to also, conscientize people, Nigerians, to know their rights.
Yes, you are very correct in terms of doing more follow-up reports and the rest, and getting expert views. But the fact is that there are still a lot of sections in our constitution, in our laws, especially the criminal code and the penal code, that states a lot of in several of our sections of our laws that criminalizes these people. Because you can't say, okay, being Haidu, it's a crime.
Okay.
You can't say being Haidu is a crime. You can't say, okay, because you are Okin, you can just be arrested and sentenced to prison for 2 months. You stay in the same prison with those who have committed real crimes. Why can't you just, like you said, a non-custodial punishment, like fine, like warning? What about community service? Instead of going to prison. Prison is not for everybody.
Why is it not popular here in this part of the world, Barrister Oluwatoyin, community service? And you've also talked about a lot of, in fact, you push back the responsibility to the people to make sure that we have better laws. What should be the first step to declassifying some of these laws?
Okay, let me first respond to the earlier question that was read out. Nigeria is a federation, and so each state has its own laws. So that is why the offense may be different, may be slightly different. We are a federation. That is why it's called the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, to the issue at hand, you said we should the classification of the. Can you?
You were projecting for you are rooting for more of the classification of criminal offenses,
yes,
than when we talk about decriminalization.
Yes.
So where should be our first step? How do we go about this?
Yes, I say so because I'm a lawyer. When we talk about declassification, it's by implication means that we don't want to call it a crime to do certain things. But when we declassify it, it simply means that yes, it is a crime. You should not do it, but it will not carry the kind of punishment that we presently have. For example, if you are found walking on the street and the value of your good is not up to 5,000 and the law says pay 5,000, I mean, I don't think it's commensurate. That's why sometimes we feel it's like killing an ant with a sledgehammer. But how about what my colleague here just said, doing some community service? It would help. It will serve as a deterrent. Instead of having someone in the prison for 1 month, how about the person serving the community for 1 month? We have a lot of places in Africa, in Nigeria, in our cities that are dirty, and we are in need of cleaners. We can get them to do the job free. So that's why I would rather say let's declassify some of those offenses.
But that's the prerogative of the judiciary. Must we go to the National Assembly to get a law for that? It's the discretion of the judge to do that, isn't it?
The judge would only work with what we have in our laws, and the people that create the law, they send in bills to our senators, to our National Assembly, House of Assembly, and once the bills are passed, it has to be implemented by the court and by the executive. So that is why I say that yes, we need to work hand in hand together. The discretion, however, on how to implement it may lie in the court, but the laws are there and they must be followed.
All right, thank you so much. Because of our time, let me get to Kunle.
Okay, so
as we begin to wrap things up.
In about 4 months before the general elections, how can citizens leverage on the political season to ensure the next set of leaders decriminalizes petty crimes, and how can politicians be made to commit to improving the rights of vulnerable Nigerians ahead of the 2023 general elections?
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a very good time because election season is here, and the people, as the lawyer said, people can actually tell these politicians that are seeking political offices, seeking to be elected, to bring it out to them, put it on the table, that okay, these are the kind of things we want. Are you going to do this when, if we are seeking our votes, to ensure that these laws
come on board?
Yes, so to ensure that there's going to be smooth and legal process.
Barrister Aladebami, this is a good time for citizens to wake up and stand up and push those things that we want to see change in our system. What do you have to, as a form of advice, to that Nigerian out there who who is following this program but needs to do something? What is the advice to them out there?
I would call on non-governmental organizations that have focus in this area to please create more awareness for our citizens to know their rights and to know the steps to take, the do's and don'ts of the law. That's the first thing I would like to talk about. I would plead with our government to kindly help our citizens. We need better environment to work with. For example, instead of arresting those that are hawking, how about the government creating some small shops where they can pay next to nothing to place their goods for sale? And then thirdly, I'd like to call on my colleagues. When I say my colleagues, we the citizenry, to help one another in the place of skills acquisition. Social skill is very, very important. When people are skilled, they get to do things better. How do I mean? Packaging of things. When you package your good in a presentable way or in a better way, law enforcement agents may not see it as an offense, but when things are not done orderly, then it begins to carry the coloration of crime with it.
We all have our responsibilities, be you the citizen and the government. We have to play our role, be a good citizen, and the government also have a human face to whatever you are doing. And this is how we'll be wrapping it up on today's program. Esther, we have to go.
Please visit our news website, primognews.org. That is primognews.org for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, www.primog.org, to get all the information about Primog.
And you can watch our videos on Primog TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We appreciate our guest, journalist with Premium Times, Kunle Sani, and legal practitioner Oluwatoyin Aladebami. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And also we thank Mr. Osina Chindukwe, who joined us from Lagos. He's a victim of such offenses, a traffic offense in Lagos, and he lost his car in this process. Public Conscience has the support of John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just and verdant and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience. And remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Official Primog. I am Esther Bassi.
Remember that birth registration and birth certificates are both free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also, remember that you can give us information or hints about corrupt acts through our phone at 090-2265-6167 or info@primog.org. I am Chidozie Obonnaya. Stay safe.